Oh, the thing is, we've actually been meaning to update Frank for a little while now, just because we, in the background, have been working on a company logo. So hopefully that will be something that, no offense to Frank, will just read better to everybody going forward. Which hopefully we can debut by next month, maybe. We'll have to see. And then also, it has been 5 minutes if you want to start
Yeah,
getting into it, Jack.
sure thing. All right, everybody. So we are going to start off today's community update. Of course, this is September's community update for Conqueror. I'm joined today by Tim, the creative director of Conqueror Reign of Madness. And together we're going to try to go through this pretty bulky community update compared to the last few that we've had together. So, first things first, we are going to start the stream with a very important announcement for Conqueror Reign of Madness's development. So please stay tuned after the announcement. There is more in the stream, but we are going to give a few minutes for everyone to read this short message. Well, this message. All right, everyone. Thank you for reading that message. As I said, there is more to this community update. Hello, Kobier.
Yeah, and to kind of address some of the messages that have been sent, with the whole donators being able to go ahead and network, one of the things that I tried doing last community update was asking people if they knew anybody to go ahead and have them reach out. We did not have anybody. Right now, we are purely just within a couple of Discord servers and a couple of subreddits, just hoping to find people. If anyone knows any better way of getting an AI programmer, that'd be wonderful. Um, but yeah, one of the big things for us was we did want to make sure that we communicated our decision as soon as possible because I mean, Jack and I, along with all the other members of our team, have been in situations where you have a company or a team that is being radio silent about their progress, and all of a sudden things just stop happening. that's not what we're doing. We want to be very upfront with everybody because not only is it best for us, as a team to do, but also, again, it's something that if I was on the receiving end, I would want a team to be upfront with me about, just kind of development and stuff like that. Because I think it just connects a bit better.
And to further address some of the content of that message that we just showed you, NPC programmers, as we've stated, are very integral to not only Conqueror, but throughout the entirety of the games industry. We listed some of the obligations that they have, some of the collaterals that come with being an AI programmer. It's already difficult to find volunteer programmers or programmers that are affordable for development teams. They usually sign on to do something for free for something like a passion project, which is what Conqueror is for a lot of us here on the team. But specifically for AI programmers, something that we've been transparent with the entire community about over the past few updates is that the demo is supposed to include both Kobolds, which are going to be companion AI that you can strategize with and command the formations of and control on the battlefield, and dwarves, who are supposed to be enemies that we have with combat encounters. Both of those things require an AI programmer. There's just no way around it unless we have a programmer that's capable of going in there and navigating the AI, the hit detection, the target locking, things like that. Then we're not going to be able to include the better quality versions of those in our demo. It's the same case for all games. There are games that don't require AI programmers, and those are games that usually just don't have combat encounters or have something that requires nav meshing or other NPCs finding where they're going and also determining what their interactions with the player character is. So for us, it's just something that's so important, and we've been having trouble finding those that we went ahead and pushed the demo back by an additional 6 months from our original estimation to you all, so that we would have enough time to not only recruit AI programmers, but if we don't, teach the programming department ourselves. So a lot of us are multitasking on the team and taking on additional skill sets and collaborating, and that's where it leads us to this. So that's ultimately the reason for the delay. As for the Patreon, it's something that we have tried not to push for the last few months in the community. It's something that was started by leadership before Tim and I were here, but for full accountability on our part, we have been sitting on the Patreon, allowing the funds to collect with the full intention to use them with the intentions that they were started with when the original developers of Conqueror decided to use the Patreon in the first place. But as leadership, we have looked at options and ultimately just decided that there was nothing to justify withdrawing the money out of the account and actually spending. And because of that, and because we have high hopes to do a full crowdfunding campaign at the launch of the demo next year, there's just no reason for us to continue taking Patreon. We would rather for everyone who contributes every single month to the team actually take their money and treat it as a Christmas bonus from us, and hopefully reinvest that money into a Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign next year, where you can actually receive tangible rewards for your backer tiers and for the money that you've donated. So you'd actually receive something for the money that you give, similar to other crowdfunding campaigns, and that's the way we'd prefer to do it. And ultimately, that by itself would lead to a larger marketing campaign where we can hopefully get Conqueror off the ground and just bring you more exciting content. Tim, did you have any other
Yeah, I
comments?
think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you put that really well. Again, kind of like what Jack was saying, for us, being transparent is a very big thing. And yeah, actually, there's not really much I can add. That's not just going to be a repeating what Jack said. He did such a great job.
Well, thank you. I know Tim has to go here in a moment, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the more exciting aspects of this community update. For everyone that's still tuned in, thank you so much for sticking around. This is one of our larger community updates that we've ever done. So to move on from this unfortunate news, let's hop right into some of the more exciting stuff. So I have not posted the community update yet from the website to you all in the Discord, but that is because I wanted to take a special approach this time and go one by one and show you these things in the best possible light with the best presentation from us both until Tim has to leave. So to start off the community update, when you tune into the post, the first thing you'll be greeted with is a new downloadable wallpaper. So Conqueror Reign of Madness has gotten a new logo treatment. This is not final by any means, but this is a logo treatment that was created by one of our lead environment artists, actually. For those of you who have checked on the website since the last community update, we've done some updating and infrastructure changes in between. So we're really excited with the direction we're taking with the website. But this is just one of a litany of new marketing and asset conversions that we're doing right now before we also present to everybody our studio website and things like that. So big round of applause for our artists for making this and the following stuff that you'll see here. It is absolutely PowerPoint time. So next up, what I wanted to show off was the next thing that you all will see in the community update, which is an updated community world glossary. So unfortunately, the stuff that's in here is stuff that was already on previous community updates. We're going to save some larger narrative and lore drops for a future update, which is purposeful. This update is mostly focused on art, and I think you all will be very happy about that. But now the community world glossary will actually contain the information from the past few narrative-focused community updates with better navigation. And while we work on a larger development documentation update behind the scenes for the team, hopefully those transitions and changes to our hosting program will probably affect our community world glossary going forward. So hopefully, I can't promise anything, but we're going to be working on more accessibility features, something like a dark mode, things like that. More information in general with what we release over time. Next up, we're going to take a look at some textures. So previously in our last two community updates, we actually showed off a pretty transformative process from sketchwork and concept art for the Conqueror armor to early 3D work. And this is still early, but we now have more finalized textures for the metals and the cloth on the Conqueror with our chosen art style. So this is going to be a general 3D render with the textures in a 360 view. Really impressive work here from Vlad, who is our one of our 3D character artists on the team. The helmet spikes in particular provide a really amazing silhouette in certain areas, and the idea that once we're able to actually show off shadows passing through the Conqueror's helmet, the shadows that are given off by the Conqueror's helmet, you would see the imposing silhouette of the Conqueror themselves. So just to move on, we are now going to show off some new concept art. I find this stuff particularly exciting. These are what we call design concepts. So they're very early 2D art renders as we progress through the idea of what dwarven culture looks like. Particular about these design concepts is they show off movement and kind of articulate our thoughts on how these individual objects would work in the world. Tim, you can just let me know the moment you need to step out when you have to go.
It's probably going to be in a minute here. Also, just reading through chat, Ryan, we can only have so many different advisors. As funny as Glub, Stub, and Flub are, I don't know. Maybe if we're lucky enough to have a future game, we can go ahead and, just make it a running theme of, there's so many of them. But for the most part, yeah, no, we need to keep things manageable for the meantime. All right, I do have to get going. I'm glad that we were able to go ahead and share this with you and that some of you were willing to go ahead and join us. And I will be talking to you guys all in a future time.
See you, Tim.
See ya.
All right, so for everyone who is still sticking around, I'm going to shortly move backwards here so that I can show off something I kind of skipped ahead on here for the community update. For anyone who does need to step out, the community update will be posted in the next few minutes the moment the stream ends. Yes, as long as these streams are on Twitch, they should be automatically recorded as VODs. And Tim and I are both pretty enthusiastic about trying to make sure that those um, recorded VODs get uploaded somewhere. So even if our past community updates have not been recorded, that's generally what the written newsletter post is a backup for. But in the future, in the past, at least one of our community updates has been uploaded as a VOD from YouTube on, I believe it's update either 1.3 or 1.4. Perhaps I'm wrong. And it will be similar for this one, where community update 1.6 that we're seeing here on stream will be a full newsletter post, but the VOD will be accessible somewhere. So I'm going to move backwards here and show off something really exciting, which is an early draft of the in-game UI done by a wonderful UI artist on the team, Diana. So really excitingly about this, something that is mentioned in the community update post that I don't have accessible to you here is just a general segment where one of our designers on the team has spoken about how the UI in the game is going to change and transform with the player Conqueror. So within the game and the narrative, there are paths that the Conqueror can take as they make their choices throughout the game and they make decisions strategically. As those choices are made, the narrative forms and the pathways change. The threads of destiny will transform along with the UI. So that will reflect ultimately the transformative journey that the Conqueror has gone on and the player has gone on across the narrative. And again, if anyone is excited by or happy with the things that I show you on stream, please remember that the newsletter posts that I do on the website do include credit to the individual artists that worked on any particular art that I show off, unless it is credited to an entire department for all of their hard work. But usually it will be to a specific artist who did the bulk of that work or all of that work in one go. So if you have nice things to say here on stream or are excited by something, please go back to the community Discord and at them and let you know how you feel. The 5-part HUD piece, I believe, is going to be used in the future for a magic system, but I may actually be wrong about that. Like I said, this is an early HUD render, so ultimately these decisions are going to change over time, and I'm just not sure which of the two we would actually put in that corner. I'm not entirely sure how the design department has wanted to articulate showing the kobolds accessible to you on screen. And last but not least on here, I want to give context as I show this image, so please bear with me as I explain to you what you're about to see here. So this is an early 3D art render, which in the industry are usually referred to as a beautiful corner. So while this is not representative of our work in Unreal Engine, this is representative of the art department's very difficult and strenuous task of developing a particular art style based on art references and deliberation back and forth from the entire team during team meetings. Ultimately, we decided that we could not go with just something that was simply realistic with the highest quality textures, as that's not necessarily either both affordable for most development teams or accessible to us with the size of the team that we have and the time frame that we're trying to work within. So what we've decided to do is double down and stylistically approach the game with many discussions and our amazing art department doing tons of reference work and research to ultimately define and filter down to what they think would be the best possible approach to our art style for the game. What that ultimately has led to here is a 3D art render of both the Conqueror's silhouette, which I did mention earlier, and the actual non-in-engine but 3D modeled work that we showed off before. So if anybody would like a higher definition look at any of the things that I showed you here, or just a closer look at those things, please tune into the post that will go live in the Discord as soon as the stream goes down. For everyone else that's still tuned in, if you have any questions, I'll stick around and answer them the best that I can. But until next time, I just want to say that next month's update should be very exciting with many things that we didn't have a chance to show here. Some things that you might be able to listen to, some things you might be able to actually see in engine. We don't want to promise too much, but we are looking forward to a kind of early look behind the curtain on some of the things that we're working on for the game. So please be on the lookout for that if it does not actually come sooner than next month. But like I said, I don't want to promise too much. As far as licensing for any of these images, I ultimately believe that if you just message Timrai from the community Discord, we can get back to you on the best possible way to use these images. I don't think that we're going to have a lot of issues with you actually using these images, and most of the things that we want to show off are going to include watermarks, so we may very well send you one with a watermark of the game in the bottom left or bottom right corner. I'll stick around here until about 4 more minutes at my time, and it is a beautiful logo. I'm very happy with the way the website looks. Just total props to one of our 3D artists, the same 3D artist who worked on the Keep renders that I showed off in a previous community update. Clearly multi-talented here. So here are the props again. And before I actually go off on the wrong foot and credit the wrong person, I'm just going to credit the entire art department for the wonderful logo that we have. Because I may be leading some confusion here on who actually accomplished that between our 3D and 2D artists. But nevertheless, it just comes down to how closely they're working together and how difficult it is to navigate which one of them is submitting what for the community update, because all of them are putting out such fantastic work. So while I know, unfortunately, I won't be able to promise anything about armor customization, it is being discussed in the team. It is something that we've had in conversations since the beginning, and while we are interested in trying to accomplish anywhere between modular armor to individual armor sets, we can't promise anything until we ultimately decide further keep functionality between what rooms and sections of the keep do what, and what purposes they'll serve, and ultimately what we can actually accomplish with the armor. Something like that is something I would absolutely suggest for anybody else in the community that has ideas similar to the armor customization or really anything you'd like to see in the game. Suggest as a Kickstarter goal, because that's what the crowdfunding campaign is for. If it's something we aren't going to be able to ship with the base game at our expectations, it is something that we will likely have available from the crowdfunding campaign should we reach a high enough threshold. So an AI programmer ultimately has to focus on the enemy combat encounters, while our programmers can actually accomplish tasks like target locking, and they can accomplish things like the Kobold formations, because that's general geometric math for the programming department. It's a very specific skill set that takes a model and provides pathfinding to it that allows them to navigate pre-existing terrain in the world, which is usually called nav mesh. Similarly, an AI programmer would also need to be able to take an individual enemy AI or a group of enemy AI and apply a strategic programming command to them, in the sense where the AI is able to not only navigate the terrain, but know where cover may be depending on the gameplay, and also how their weapon works and their different attack patterns. That also goes the same for every different enemy type, every different type of creature or animal we have in the game, and ultimately is continues into the idea of what an animator does. So as an animator might apply animations, whether mocap or hand animated, to an asset in the game, that then becomes a character, and the AI has to actually turn that into a fully fleshed character where it's no longer just animated, it also has command prompts and functions, or logic checks, so that it knows where its uh, pathfinding is, where its general uh, what would the right terminology be here? Essentially, just it's nav mesh in the world, where it needs to go, where it needs to be, how it interacts with the engine as far as other creatures and commands. Yeah, behavior. So specifically, as for what we need an AI programmer for the demo, which is going to be a significantly smaller part of our game than the full launch product, the demo we've already talked about including both kobolds and dwarves. So while our programmers can have the kobolds as assets and characters that are able to follow you and also basically form formations with the geometric math I mentioned before, the AI programmer has to make it so that the kobolds are able to priority target individual creatures on the enemy side, whether or not there's a dwarven boss or a stronger dwarven enemy. So it needs to be able to prioritize those things. They also need to be able to react to the individual interactions with the Conqueror, whether that is to change formation, which a programmer can handle, but specifically, an AI programmer might make it so that the kobolds react differently to different commands from the Conqueror, like healing them or picking up items or something like that. So while I'm not necessarily promising gameplay mechanics, in the general sense, it would be anything from puzzle mechanics in the world. So even if something is not a dwarf or a kobold, we might have made an individual piece of a puzzle in the world or an item in the world as an asset, a character with logic. So that may mean that a tree has to fall at a particular moment, and while that may be down to the animation and programming department, an AI programmer specifically might need that tree to fall under specific conditions or react in a certain way. And similarly, an AI programmer would probably interact with an individual object like a sundial to make it so that it reacts to shadows or interactions with the player. So obviously, some of those things are handled by programmers, multifaceted and skilled programmers across different development teams. We are prioritizing AI programmers because we have a combat focused game with strategy mechanics, and thus we just need an AI programmer to make sure that we are actually delivering on capable enemy encounters and competent companion AI with the kobolds. Similarly, if we choose to include NPCs like shop vendors or anything like that, or other NPCs within the keep outside of the kobolds or within the kobolds that have certain functionality, we would need an AI programmer to make sure that they have both nav mesh across the keep, or even if they're staying in the same place, they're interacting with the Conqueror properly, depending on what we're doing within the game. It is a lot of word soup, but ultimately the AI programmer is responsible for most character behavior, which is just something that requires logic that most programmers probably can handle, but we don't want to dilute the capabilities of our programmers by having them try to take on that skill set as much as possible, because they're handling so many other functionalities, from menu navigation to implementation of mechanics to everything else. All right, so for anyone who wants to share the VOD, should stay live on the Creative Mob Studios Twitch page that we're on now for a while. I will make sure it stays as permanently as possible, and I'll also find a way for it to be shareable in the future. That said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off at 5:10 unless I get another question, and that way the community update post can go live and you can see these images much clearer. So remember, everybody, please tune back in next month for the next update, where we can hopefully show off some very exciting and much more finalized assets for the game. Not in the sense that they're fully finished, but just that they're further in the pipeline as far as whether or not they're in engine or like I said, something you can listen to and something you can see. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been the end of the 1.6 community update. Everybody have a great rest of your day.